And so Anthony Fauci did an interview on CBS Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan. And I have some of the transcript right here. So we are going to get right into that, baby. So Anthony Fauci says this on the CBS Face the Nation interview. He says, so if they get up and criticize science, nobody's going to know what they're talking about. And Tony Fauci saying this in response to Margaret Brennan asking him about criticism and the criticism he's gotten in the past. So that's the context. So he says, if they get up and criticize science, nobody's going to know what they're talking about. But if they get up and really aim their bullets at Tony Fauci, yes, that is in the transcript. He's talking in the third person. And if you've heard other interviews with Tony Fauci, that will not surprise you. He says, but if they get up and really aim their bullets at Tony Fauci, well, people could recognize there's a person there. There's a face, there's a voice you can recognize. You see him on television. So it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. That's dangerous. To me, that's more dangerous than the slings and the arrows that get thrown at me. I'm not going to be around here forever, but science is going to be here forever. At least that part is true, thankfully. He goes on to say, and if you damage science, you are doing something very detrimental to society long after I live. And that's what I worry about. So that is Anthony Fauci's controversial take, is that I represent science, that he is science. He's making a direct correlation between him as a human being, as a single human being that is capable of errors and opinions and bias. He is making a correlation between himself, Tony Fauci, and the process of science, the process of gathering evidence and making a hypothesis and the other steps of the scientific method that I forgot 4 minutes after fourth grade ended. But he is saying that he is effectively science, so that whatever he says also has to be true in the field of science exploration, which of course is not true at all. And that's what scares me the most about, obviously, if you have a leader that is full of himself and biased and politicized and being corrupted by, fame and fortune, it's like Anthony Fauci reminds me of the way that I hear stand-up comics talk about other comics that succumb to the fame and being politically correct. It's that you get into comedy, you get into your field of work because you want to ascend to the highest level of that art form or the highest level of that profession. And then as a result of you doing your job well, other people start to come around. Other people start to influence your opinion, what you can say, what you can say. They start to give you ideas. You surround yourself with yes men and yes women. And then all of a sudden you become someone who yourself 10 years ago would have thought was a fucking clown. And and I don't mean clown in the sense of being funny. I mean clown in the sense of, what are you doing? And that reminds me of Anthony Fauci, where I'm sure he did a really good job and got into science because he wanted to make a difference. He wanted to help people out. I understand he did a lot to quell the HIV/AIDS epidemic. I don't know a lot of details about that, but I hear people saying that he had a huge impact on that. And so I'm not doubting that he got into science for wanting to have an impact on the world and a good impact. I'm saying that he's become this Oprah-like figure surrounded by powerful people who also have motivations. They have political motivations, financial motivations. Those powerful people are then connected to other powerful companies, and those powerful companies are connected to a shit ton of money. And that's not a great combination to surround yourself with if you're someone like Anthony Fauci, because your job, like you say, if your job is really to represent science, then you have to cultivate an atmosphere of being as unbiased and egoless and willing to admit you're wrong as possible. And to me, that is not even close to what Fauci has done. He's gone into the spotlight. He's made it so hard for himself to have what people could take as a controversial statement or to make a recommendation that maybe, CNN doesn't want to hear, but it may be the right thing to do. Like talking about, instead of getting yourself vaccinated and getting boosters, be honest and say, we're still with vaccinations. Yeah, it's from what I can see and from what I've come across in my own research, and I'm by no means an expert, so please do not take this with a grain of salt. It seems like it's a good idea to get the vaccine, and there are also breakthrough cases, and those two things can coexist. And there are also people that have adverse reactions to the vaccine, and we're not having conversations that include all of those things. It's either get the vaccine and it's 100% effective, and anyone who questions it is a cuck or, right wing or whatever. And in reality, when you have millions of people undergoing a medical procedure like getting a vaccine, there are going to be adverse reactions, and there are also going to be breakthrough cases. And I think if people like Fauci were more honest about that, about the potential downsides, I would actually encourage more people to get the vaccine, because people hate being lied to. Even when they don't know exactly what they're being lied to about, they can just sense it. And when you watch this interview with Fauci, you just sense that there's a cognitive dissonance between what he actually believes and what he's saying. And it seems fake. And if I can see that on a transcript, people can definitely see it. Like, I read this, hearing his fucking voice in my head, thinking, this is the fakest shit I've ever read. And so people can obviously see that if they watch the interview. I watched a few clips of it, and it's even more apparent. But people can sense that they're being lied to, even when they aren't aware of all the facts. There's some sort of energy or aura that enters the room when someone is not being authentic, and when someone has an ulterior motive that they're purposely not showing because companies or politicians and other people behind closed doors have a stranglehold around them. It's like this invisible stranglehold that's around Fauci's neck, influencing his speech and actions that we can't visibly see, but we sense it in the way that he speaks and moves through the world. So that is, I mean, I don't know how you can say you represent science. But with that being said, here's what I do think. I think this is Fauci's angle when he says, I represent science. I am science. It almost has this cologne type feel to me. It almost has this. You ever see those commercials with Johnny Depp? And he has the Sauvage. Actually, I have it right here. And you just, it's some sort of very sexy and sensual voice. And it's Johnny Depp in the commercial, and he's on a beach with a bunch of women, fat tits, nice ass, and there's just like a cologne spritz around them, and they're just like, Sauvage by Johnny Depp. Yeah. Oh yeah. Can you not picture Tony Fauci coming out with a cologne called Science? Science by Tony Fauci. Just Just Fauci surrounded by just a bunch of tits on a beach, girls in bikinis. Just he's jerking off on them with the vaccine. He has the vaccine in a syringe, and he's just fucking letting it spray in their mouth. He's like, science. Oh, fuck. Oh, shit, daddy. Oh. Daddy is, daddy's Pfizer to Fauci. No. But yeah, it's just like, I could so see Fauci in a commercial. It starts out, he's just like, I am science, and you can be too. With Science by Tony Fauci. Do you have questions that pop into your head about the vaccine? Do you have thoughts? Do you sometimes wonder about things? Well, I have a solution to that. 3 sprays of Science by Tony Fauci. And all those questions float away. And I float in. And I can tell you exactly what to do because I am science and now you are too. Doesn't that sound nice? Science by Tony Fauci. Don't ask questions. Instead, just spray. Spray on the science. Spray on that layer that's going to protect you from asking questions because that's so bad for you. And you don't want other opinions coming into your brain. You just want to take what I say, and I'm science in a bottle, and I'm spraying it on you to take. And all these girls in the commercial are just like, I thought this was going to be 30 seconds. Why is he going on this rant? And they're just like stuck in that pose of like the vaccine just coming on their face, and Fauci's on the beach. He's just holding that, and they're like, how long do we have to stay on our knees with fucking Pfizer and Moderna just spread all over our faces? And we're just holding that pose as Fauci just like red sees the girls on the beach and just like slowly walks towards the camera and goes, that's right. Science, which I am. And you know who else? You know who else I am? I'm Tony Fauci. I'm for science. I'm about science. And that is where I think Fauci is going with him saying represent science. You know, a lot of people are like, yo, Fauci, like you're a piece of shit. Things that I just said 5 seconds ago where you're saying, yo, Fauci, how could you say you're science? You're taking away from the scientists. You're taking away from the scientific community. You're taking away from the value of the scientific process and the evidence and what things are saying. But I think Fauci's bringing us towards and getting ready to launch something that's even more important than a vaccine, which is his own cologne line that he's going to make the rounds on CNN, Oprah, The View. And he's going to launch Science by Tony Fauci. And that is going to be what we all need because we should just stop asking questions. That's what we all really need to do. It's when we hear that voice in our head, we would be so much happier. Like, what about breakthrough cases? Shh. What about adverse react? Shh. What about Science by Tony Fauci? So, yeah. I don't know. Maybe he's an egotistical maniac. Maybe he's just trying to get his. He's trying to, like, when you blow up on Twitter and you release you drop your SoundCloud link, that's like Tony Fauci. He's blowing up right now, and he's trying to drop that cologne and make some money. You gotta make some money out of this. And, I don't blame him for that. There is another part of the interview. I particularly enjoyed this one because you guys may have listened to this. We did, my brothers and I, Matt, Dave, and I, about, I want to say 5 months ago, did an entire episode on the COVID lab leak theory. And we got into a lot of the data that Nicholas Wade wrote about, Brett Weinstein spoke about, Joe Rogan had a bunch of people on his podcast talking about the evidence that this virus probably came from a lab. It did not come from a bat biting a pangolin and then flying 1,000 miles to the wet market. And so if you want to check that out, it's on an AUXORO Premium full 2-hour episode deep dive. So went into all that evidence. And so that was back in June, and there was a